Hello, and welcome to another episode of What's Going On with Shaun, a variety podcast grounded in marketing, but with an appetite for quality conversations about things that make life worth living. Time is precious, so thanks for tuning in today as we find out what's going on with Eric Miltsch. Today we're going to find out what's going on with Eric Miltsch. Eric, how are you, man?
I'm great. I'm good. I'm trying to do as great as I can.
Yeah, well, we were just before I hit record for the audience, and your time is precious and super valuable. So always a big thank you from me and from Eric for tuning in, and maybe you're even watching it on YouTube or some other place. But we were just talking about what's going on in the world right now. It's the end of March 2020, and COVID-19 seems to have our attention. Yeah.
Yeah, it sure does. I think the best way to describe it, and we keep talking about it amongst our other friends, and I'm sure everybody else is doing the same, but people like us, obviously we like to be organized and, add some structure to our lives and, try to schedule things out, and can't really do that now, so it's, a lot of us are left to our own devices and try to figure out that direction. But, I think you and I even said it in a conversation offline before this too, was anybody that claims to have all the answers is obviously in the same situation as us, so all we have to do is, I think the smartest thing in my opinion is just, take it one day at a time, limit all of your sources, take everything with a grain of salt, but just think long term. I don't think it's anything too different than what a lot of people are saying, but still gotta stay somewhat baseline and not get too down or too up, but find that middle ground.
Yeah, I think people are tired of the word unprecedented. Was it you? Somebody posted, is there can we find another word other than unprecedented? Somebody posted that I saw in the last few days. You kind of we were asking each other before I started to record, like, how are you doing? How are you doing individually? And that seems to be the thing that I'm asking everybody. I will say that I like the fact that there's an awareness of us from a man and womankind perspective that we're asking, well, how are we? Because we for way too long, we just accept the answer, I'm fine, I'm okay, or hey, I'm great, which is never really the truth, is it?
Well, I think, isn't it Mark Maron that said, if you're the person that actually answers the how are you doing question, you're a selfish prick to begin with?
Yes.
Because that other person doesn't really want to hear that. But to your point, I think that is true now. People are genuinely concerned. I know I certainly am with my friends and family, and just trying to make sure people are doing the right thing. But it's almost, and me, my cynical ways, I'm kind of fishing for those people that are actually like, that's good, I went out to dinner last night with some friends. I was like, why? Why are you doing that?
Okay, so maybe you can make fun of me. I did not go to dinner with friends last night, but I went to Lowe's yesterday. I needed an air filter for my house. It's allergy season, and I'm sure you deal with allergies in Rochester, New York, just like the Texas allergies are brutal. And they're raging. I mean, it looked like it was snowing pollen from the skies last week. It's when the temperature swings pretty wildly in spring. Anyway, that said, I went to Lowe's to get an air filter. On my way, my wife also asked me to buy, she's planting strawberries. And they have little strawberry starters, and she only wanted the organic ones. And she's like, it's right in this location. Anyway, so I had 2 or 3 things to pick up from Lowe's. And the drive to Lowe's from my house on a Sunday was a little bit more ghost town than a normal Sunday in Frisco, Texas. That was noticeable. But as soon as I got to the Lowe's parking lot, I was like, well, this looks normal. There's tons of people there, people buying gardening supplies and various things that you buy at Lowe's. I saw 2 people wearing masks. If the logic, and I'm not a healthcare professional, but if the logic is those masks are actually intended for people who are sick, so when you cough, it doesn't come out versus
protecting it in.
Then it's like, hey, I appreciate you wearing your mask, but you're making me think, if you're paying attention to how you're supposed to use it, that you might be sick, which makes me want to tackle you. But then I don't want to tackle you because I don't want to get sick. So you have all these weird thoughts and emotions, but there were quite a few people at Lowe's. There's a Sonic drive-in, like fast food. I don't know if they have Sonic up there, but there was a Sonic drive-in right by this Lowe's. It was also very busy, and, drove home, and there you go. Haven't been going out on the regular unless I've needed to pick up stuff for my folks. The story there of me, caring for them. But, I went out yesterday and I didn't wear gloves and I didn't wear a mask. And, why would I do that? Well, those were things that I definitely needed the air filter more than I needed another strawberry plant for my wife. But my brain is also working this way, Eric. And I feel like I need my friends, or maybe even people who aren't my friends, to tell me if my brain is not working right. At some point in time, in fact, I have been living my life this way almost since my mom's cancer diagnosis 5 years ago. I don't believe I'm coming back as a tree or something else. It's not my, people have various different belief systems. And I know there are people that believe in reincarnation and all kinds of different spiritual and religious beliefs. I believe I've got one ride on the merry-go-round. This is it. I'm living it. And it's been mostly good. Ups, downs, heartbreak, tragedy, triumphs, all that. It's mountaintops and valleys and mountaintops and valleys. And it's not about the mountaintop or the valley. It's about what I'm fucking learning in between those journeys up and down. And, when my mom was diagnosed with cancer and then my dad, with Parkinson's, I was like, no one gets out alive. Nobody lives forever. Everybody dies. It's a horrible thing to have to actually have that conversation. But the truth is, am I living my life according to the facts that I'm not living forever? And there's a statistical percentage chance every day I get out of bed that I might die. I might not even have to leave my bed. I could die of a heart attack in my bed, right? So there are 7.7 billion people on the planet, give or take. There's 152,000 people that die of some cause every single day around the globe. What's the statistic chance that I might die? It's less than 0.5% from everything, including COVID-19.
Right.
So at what point, and I don't know the answer to this, and I'm not trying to be cavalier or anything. I'm asking you the question, or I would love your insight. At what point do we take necessary risks to live our lives? What's worth it? A 1% chance that every day, there's a 1% chance every day that you could be killed, you could die of some cause, or 0.5%. And is there a percentage chance, and has every human, of course they haven't, but should we be thinking about, well, in order to live my life, regardless of what happens, because I'm going to die anyway, what am I willing to risk? A 2% factor that I might die today? A 1% factor? At what point in time does that percentage have to get above whatever it is for you as an individual to say, shut it all down and try to lower that percentage?
Right. Well, I think, to your point, it is relative. You got people, for instance, what if if you were talking to me and I was a base jumper, my percentage risk would suddenly
You did jump from the stratosphere.
Sure. But again, the level of risk, I did it 3 times too. But if you look at the level of risk associated with the action, now then of course you're going to skew the numbers. But to the bigger point, and keep in mind, you asked my opinion from a different perspective, and we are in today's time. I'm pretty much worlds apart, or we are worlds apart in New York to Texas, just on the sheer approach that both states have taken. Just as we still have states that are not on shutdown, lockdown. There are still dealerships open in some states. We've been on lockdown for over 2 weeks in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully now, because we're starting to see it, at least up here in our region, we are seeing that flattening of the curve, as they keep speaking of, and that's a good sign, at least for us. And that's why I think you see and hear different viewpoints, whether you're talking to friends on the phone or the stuff we see on Facebook. I see people down south and in the Midwest that obviously clearly have a different viewpoint on this because of the way that their state responded. And I can't control that. All I can control is obviously what comes out of my mouth or what I type on the keyboard. So I have to, just bite my tongue like everybody else hopefully would, but being respectful of that. And if anything, at the end of the day, just have a good common sense, logical discussion about it. But I think right now, I'll admit, yeah, I'm a little nervous of it. I certainly don't want to catch it. I also don't want anything else to happen, but Susan and I were just talking about this morning, what if I did get sick? I'd be terrified of just going to the hospital in general,
Yeah.
because we've had a couple cases here in Rochester of deaths in the hospital. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's, so when you start to see that, whereas obviously the total cases in New York, is so much higher than many other places in the country. So obviously again, just even the news that we pay attention to here is quite different than what other people might be exposed to. So that can
Mm-hmm.
obviously change the way that you perceive things and the way you approach things. And the other thing that I keep saying too, Shaun, is you know for a long, long time now, this has been my lifestyle, working at home. So I'm home all the time, except when I'm traveling and going to Minneapolis to dealer teamwork.
Yeah, that's been me
So
too for years.
yeah, so you and I we're used to that lifestyle. Whereas you take someone like Shaun and James, this is a worst case scenario for them. That's not their wheelhouse, and so
Yeah.
it takes a little bit more adjusting. So you compound that factor onto the general nature of things, and it just exacerbates the entire situation. Whereas the only difference for us, keep in mind, we're empty nesters now.
Mm-hmm.
you know, Other than going out to dinner and maybe a friend's house to play some cards on the weekend, we eliminated those two separate things.
Mm-hmm.
One positive I will say, I'm not a big fan of going shopping. I'm not a big fan of going to the grocery store. If I can order it online, I will.
Yeah.
But if I do have to go, I'm in and out anyways. So this just made that in and out even faster.
Yeah.
So uh,
Yeah. Well, it's um I'll tell you, it for me, I keep looking for the data, the statistics that help me make more sense of it, because I'm still struggling to make, and I'm sure I'm one of millions of people who are like trying to make sense of it, without sounding like I have no concern for it whatsoever, because that's not true. It clearly, my wife's boss got it.
wow.
Yeah. So, it hit really, really close to home. He gave it to his wife.
Oh,
She
geez.
had the mild, like maybe 3 days of symptoms. She's okay. She's fine. She's fine,
Wow.
actually. It ravaged him. High fever for days and days and days. And at one point, I think his doctor said, "You need to go to the ER right now." So they evaluated, checked him, whatever. And then he went back home to continue to recuperate. So he wasn't hospitalized long term, but went into the hospital a couple of different times. First time they wouldn't test him. Then the next time they did test him. And then and he was actually visiting dealers in the New Rochelle area, and flew from there out to the West Coast to
Oh,
Los Angeles. So it's like hot zone to hot zone,
wow.
just craziness. But I keep looking for, I want more and more data. I want more to compare it to everything else that we can to just come up with. But you said it as we started having this conversation, like for people that want to be, I don't think you use these words, but it's exactly what you mean. You're a problem solver. you're a fixer. I fix things. I need enough information. Need enough points of data. I need enough resource or enough resources, and then I'll fix things. Whether we do that individually all by ourselves, or whether we do that by coming up with the strategic plan that involves several components, you solve problems. And if you're a person that wants to solve problems and make problems go away, end people's suffering, bring joy to people's lives, restore their sense of being, pull them out of depression, or if they're feeling anxious or whatever it might be, and you have almost zero control over it, it is extremely frustrating. It's crippling. It's psychologically a weight that most people avoid at all costs because it's almost unbearable for most people. And I'm talking to people like that on almost a daily basis that are in that scenario.
I hear you. I'd like to think that I fix things. I tend to break more than I fix, probably.
In the process of fixing things or making them better, let's say you are definitely unafraid to break a few eggs because you know that that's what's required to have an omelet. So, but you're still fixing breakfast.
Actually, Susan does that. She does a fantastic job of fixing me my breakfast.
All right, fine. Ruin my analogy. That's fine. That's fine. That's super fine. So, I'll tell you, are you concerned that more and more of our friends and family, friends that we know inside the industry, inside the auto industry, friends outside, that the longer this goes on, the more it's going to tear people apart, like relationally too? Or do you think it's going to draw people closer together?
Well, me being the forever optimist, I would like to think that we will find a way to come together in a negative situation. But unfortunately, we'll probably have to go through that phase where people lose a little bit of their logical thinking and maybe even the rational thought process, and it may drive people apart. Unfortunately, we've seen it already with the political climate, and now something like this could add to that layer of dynamic to it, and again may make it worse before it gets better. But it's almost like we have to go back to a time of like 9/11 to think of what the country was like when they really truly coming together. But hopefully we can. I mean, I certainly miss seeing people and my friends and people that are at least that I do stuff with here in town. Like my golf league should be starting soon. I don't believe that's happening. Last message I got, it was canceled, but and even if it did, I certainly wouldn't go and do it. Who knows? And I know my partner in it, he just had a baby. I can't imagine he'd be going out with a just having a new baby at home. So it's going to change things quite a bit. I think from a positive standpoint, though, looking longer term, if you think back at from the financial crisis, I can remember some of the guys in the car dealership I was working at, being like, "Oh, I'm going to sell every stock. I'm going to sell this, and I'm never getting back in the market ever again." And sure enough, and I think I don't know the numbers offhand, but I think Google was only like a couple $100 a share at the time. And it's, I don't even know, but well over 1,000 now, but you look at it, you look at what happened longer term, and that's where everybody just has to stop and think, all right, we get through this, what's going to happen? The car industry is specifically, everybody's wired a little bit differently. They're grinders, they're hustlers, they're going to make stuff happen. And when this does come back, I'm hoping for a lot of good things, process changes, a lot of different company consolidation, just things are going to get simpler, hopefully. Dealers might have a different outlook. I'm sure there's going to be some that, even though they're going through remote stuff and work from home policies, the minute that stuff is able to go away and they can go back to what's familiar with them, they'll probably go back to their old ways. Hopefully a lot of them will see the opportunity to be able to say, hey, you know what? We can actually make a change. We can actually improve. You and Gifford used to talk about it all the time, about the differences that dealerships will try to market themselves with, the unique selling proposition, like free
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, kids playhouse, and family owned
He
and
stole
state
that from me, by the way. Now it's on record.
a state-of-the-art showroom.
Yep.
Maybe now is the time to finally put those bullets to bed and talk about all the new stuff, because a lot of dealers are actually doing a good job of changing that to you know clean facility,
Mhm.
healthy employees. They're addressing at least the things that matter versus the things that they thought mattered, in terms of, hey, we got free Wi-Fi. It's like,
Mhm.
seriously, everybody has,
Right.
everybody's got that.
Fresh Starbucks coffee brewed daily.
Yeah.
Because when I'm thinking I'd like a cup of Starbucks coffee, I'm going to the car dealership to get that. Like, come on.
What
Yeah,
was
but
it?
that's a
Was
great
it?
point. That's a good point.
It's a funny commercial too. As a side note, I think it's Capital One, where they show the Capital One uh, bank, but it kind of looks like a Starbucks. Yeah, and I've been saying this for years. Eventually, Ford will just buy Starbucks, and then like Chase Bank will buy them all. So you're going to go into this facility that has cars and Starbucks, people writing their movie scripts, and then you can also buy a car. It's like into
Yeah.
your banking. But it's like, I mean, that's a funny aside. But I think it's, to think about what could potentially come of all this stuff. You
Yeah.
know, I'm anxious for that. I mean, what's the one thing that everybody in automotive who does videos and speaks and blogs, what do they talk about? They always talk about the same one thing: how the car industry is always behind the times. And I've tried to say for a while, no, we're actually pretty ahead of it, pretty ahead of things. We got a lot of people that love the new and shiny objects, and they're constantly trying to push that stuff. Doesn't always become successful, but you look at everything that there is available these days. Website designs have gotten nicer, websites are getting faster. They look great on mobile. We've got digital retailing solutions. There's some really neat stuff that is out there. Even with the attempt of the subscription models, again, the point is there's a lot of great things out there. So I'm anxious to see what this whole thing acts as a catalyst to be able to move us to the next step, and see what comes of that. Hopefully it's better experiences, better outcomes, better measurement, better accountability, stronger leadership, and who knows, maybe even just better experiences for the consumer.
Yeah. I think those are possible outcomes. I think it will be balanced and weighed against the absolute catastrophe of trying to restart and rebuild the economy. I mean, with the millions and millions of people that have already filed for unemployment, the disruption to various industries, that's all going to be quite the process. Kind of when I was asking you, do you think, people are friends, family, people in general are going to lean more towards, I don't know, a collective kindness and more patience, or it's going to become even more divisive? I don't, and I didn't really pay attention to politics that much when I was a lot younger. Like in high school, I could care less. I didn't care, was not interested. Little bit, I went to junior college and then right into the automotive industry, and then still, a little more aware, but never really interested in like being activist like and really like stumping for what I was believing in. And then as I've gotten older, I look back on, well, even the times when I really wasn't paying attention, can I remember a time in my entire life that it's been more divisive and toxic than now? No, not even close. And then I have to ask myself, do I really think that Donald Trump alone um, deserves to be the person that could polarize and divide the country more so than any other person? And I don't believe that is the truth either.
I agree
No,
with that statement. I don't think so. I don't think he is.
are there um are there things that we like and dislike about everybody? Yes. Like if you're looking for the president of the United States to be your moral compass, number one, you probably don't even have a moral compass, because most people that like to talk about stuff like that, they cheat on, taxes and business and all kinds of stuff. And so I don't really have a whole lot of time for the moral high ground talk about,
Right.
oh, well, Donald Trump does this, whatever, grab him by the whatever. It's like, we just shouldn't go there.
Right.
But all of that said, because now people are going to try to think, well, I think Shaun's a Trump guy. I'm like, I don't like labels, period. I like trying to be fair and reasonable with every single person, but definitely with the president of the United States. But what I really hate about this is, and I've had this with some of our friends in the industry, where my my leaning is usually towards the middle. Like, I want to pull somebody that's completely sees the world differently than me. I want to pull them closer to me so I can understand. I don't know why you see it this way, and you clearly don't see why I see it this way. What if between the two of us, because we like and respect each other, even if we end up disagreeing, we can still like and respect each other? There's so little of that left,
Yeah.
even with people that we're friends with. Like, it just gets to a point where it collapses. It literally happened on one of Arnold's posts for the karaoke-thon with
Really?
people who know. I just won't. Yeah, because he decided to post one of those, what do you call those celebrities that,
Yeah.
hey, give me $50 and I'll be, your, whatever. I'll be your promotion whore, kind of what it is. He did one with
It was Tommy
Tommy
Lahren.
Lahren,
Yeah.
that blonde conservative
Yeah.
girl who's just, over the top, pretty annoying actually. And a couple people took offense to that. And, I never chimed in. I look at stuff like that and I'm like, oh, okay, I hope this doesn't go. And instead of Arnold just taking it down, I would have just take it down, because it's going to get ugly. Sure enough, later in the comment string there, people that know each other and shouldn't really handle things like that, you just throw it caution all to the wind, and it's ugly
Yeah.
and doesn't need to be. That stuff is like, that concerns me now, because people that I like and that I think are reasonable and good people, even if maybe I don't agree with them on everything, or they don't agree with me on anything, civility, man, it seems to be in short order, and common sense, and in the interest of really, let's be somewhere closer to the middle, because that works for more people on a whole than let's get everybody out to the left or the right, and then within some insane thinking believe that we're going to get better together. That stuff really that concerns me.
Well, it's an interesting dynamic though, because you take a lot of these people though, and you put them all together at, say, even the karaoke event, and everybody's fine together,
Yes.
especially late night after a few cocktails, or even different scenario before that event. When people are out to dinner,
Yeah.
people are having a good time, and I personally, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, excuse me, but I think again, the point is, there are probably dinners where people are at where they have an argument, or a discussion rather. I can't ever say that I've been where things have gotten out of hand to the level of what we witness in comments on something as innocuous as a celebrity promo video.
Right.
Nobody at dinner is like flipping their plate up and saying, "I screw this, I'm out of here. I can't sit here and talk to you like this."
Mm-hmm.
What if, are people going to do the same thing in real life? Or they're like, "I just blocked you. I'm not going to talk to you for the rest of this dinner." Or
Shun.
I'm gonna, like on Facebook,
Unshun.
you can pause somebody for 30 days. It's like, all right, yeah, that's right. I'm done with you for 30 days. I'm not going to talk to you at all. You
Yeah.
can't be like that at dinner. I'm like, all right, next 30 minutes, you and I are not talking. I'm going to talk to everybody else, but
Yeah.
we're not going to have a discussion. You can't act like that. So I've always just come from the perspective, it throws me for a loop as to why people think that it's okay to act like that, in that. I've always thought this. I truly don't believe a lot of people making those comments fully grasp how many other people see their comments. Maybe you make a funny quip or a funny aside, or even just a real poignant thing, poignant comment, and you get like 9 likes on it. Like, oh, look at that, 9 people liked it. Probably a couple hundred people saw that.
It's very interesting that you point out that observation, because back closer to the time period when this all went down, which was just within a few days of NADA and that actual event even happening, somebody reached out to me and was asking about it, and I was telling them, this is my thoughts. Everyone can say what they want. I'm a free speech guy. That's great. And this person said, but do you think that the people that make comments like that have any idea how many other people don't respond to it? They don't like it. They don't love it. They don't laugh at it. They don't make a mean face. They don't
Mhm.
comment on it, but they absolutely saw what these people are saying and how they're going back and forth, and they're paying attention to this back and forth. And I'm like, I think a lot of people see stuff like that, but the people that probably need to be more self-aware, um, clearly they're not, or not enough. And anyway, so yeah, that's
Can
interesting.
I,
I,
can I give you my impression? One last
yes.
thing. I give you
Yeah.
my impression of all those other people that are not interacting with it. This
Hmm.
is pretty much what I believe the majority of them. So here they are. They're on their phone. They're not liking or commenting or sharing. They're saying to their spouse, they're saying, "What is wrong with people?"
Right. Yeah. 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 Or
That's
they're like, um, that's so unnecessary, or that's like, what that's not right. Like, don't do,
yeah.
like, yeah.
There's
So,
some type of auditory response that does happen.
so I got a question for you. I'm curious, with all that's going on with this coronavirus, COVID-19, global pandemic, we're all across the world. We're pretty much in a, you know, some form of quarantine or shutdown. Yes, even in Texas and in Dallas County, and then my county, Collin County, it started one by one, and then the governor did too. Like, non-essential businesses close. Now some dealerships get to be open. So the laws regarding dealerships, both sales and service, have been a bit different, or
Mhm.
the stipulations from state to state. But it has been pretty much a don't go out here unless you need to go out for some major reason. So there's lots of businesses that are closed. And this has been going on now for weeks. And it feels to me, I could uh, this could be off a little bit, but it feels to me almost on a daily basis that the weight of this gets so much heavier. That, do you think it's a crazy thing for me? Because I really do believe this. I believe that every single person that I know, and lots of people that I don't know, should be asking themselves this question: if
Mhm.
I lost everything, do I still have a reason to live? If I lost everything, what would I do? Give up? Start over? So the question is, if I lost everything, what would I do? I think everyone should be asking themselves that question. There is no better time in my life for me to tell people I'm hopeful, I'm positive, I am a glasses half full, optimistic person. That's just who I am. My hope isn't in the president of the United States. My hope for life isn't in my job or jobs. My hope for life isn't in, it's so much beyond that. It's a spiritual thing. It is, but it's worthy, I think, of people asking that question. If you lost it all, then what? What are you going to do?
Great
Because
question.
some people are going to.
No, that's a great question. That's a wonderfully fantastic, beautiful way to look at it, in my opinion, Shaun.
Yeah. If I had to rebuild my whole life again because I lost it all, it wouldn't be easy. I would probably have several moments where I'm just fucking swearing and, just mad as hell. But I know myself, I would come back around to believing and knowing that I would be thankful that I still had my life with the opportunity to rebuild it again. Right. And I think everybody needs to think, you know what? Life is a gift, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you own a company, whether you own part of a company, whether you just work for a company, whether you're making cheeseburgers at McDonald's, whether you're delivering pizzas. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters that you have life, something that way too many people take for granted. Life is precious. Every moment matters that we have. So it's time to get busy living. It's time to realize that we should live according to the fact that nobody lives forever, period. So if you had
Yeah.
to build it all over again, grasp on and be thankful for the fact that at least you'd have your life and the opportunity to rebuild versus completely losing your life altogether.
No, I agree, man. That's a great way to look at it. Great
So,
way.
well, I want to pivot. So enough of COVID-19 heavy doom and gloom. Like, oh, it's just so intense. I'm trying to think. When I met you, when did we first meet? When do you think that was? Were you? I'm trying to remember what you were doing at that time.
It was probably when I was at the first dealership at Auction Direct.
Yeah, I think so. Yep,
And it was probably through Joe. I think that's what,
probably.
and it was either at NADA or another event early on.
Could
Like,
it have been at one of the early
maybe,
karaoke things?
yeah, it would have had to have been, because early on, the only thing I ever did was driving sales. So
Yeah.
one of your karaoke events at like the second one, maybe this, because there
It was
wasn't.
like maybe because you were there when it would be like 10 or 12 people at the most when we go to the Imperial Palace Karaoke Club or whatever it was
Yeah,
called.
yeah,
Brian Armstrong, Jerry Tebow.
yeah. There was only maybe a couple dozen people
Before
total.
Jerry hit it big time,
We had a
now he
couple,
never
we had
comes.
a couple tables.
Yeah.
There was a couple booths.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was very small group. Like you said, you're spot on. Like 2 dozen people, maybe at tops,
Yeah.
and then it ballooned from there. But that's probably where it was. It had to have been a DSC, because I didn't go to Digital Dealer. My first Digital Dealer wasn't actually until like 3 years ago. I had
Hmm.
never went to those early ones
I do
early
remember
on.
that. And I remember that you were a heavy endorser and participant for driving sales. And then we got the chance to work together for a little while with Jared at driving sales,
We
which
had a lot of fun. Yeah, we had a lot of fun at that.
we did, man. I wish we could say it if this podcast was something different, but I tell you, man, when we would, even we roomed together a couple times.
Yeah, I know.
And man, man, oh man, people would probably be able to connect the dots if we said too much. But you remember the story. We used to talk about things because we'd go out to fly out to Salt Lake City, and if you're not of LDS faith, and you and I are not, it you are not overwhelmed, but you're certainly impressed upon the beauty of Utah. I mean, it's just gorgeous. It's just amazing. Like if you were like, I don't know, any early pioneer, you might get to Utah and be like, this is the place. It's like awesome, really beautiful. But then for you and I, we were like, hey, let's go grab a beer or something. And the laws and stuff were really, really different. And so you're the one that found it, I think.
The polygamy
From
porter.
Wasatch Brewery.
Yeah, the polygamy porter.
Polygamy Porter. Oh my goodness! I'm sure that Mormons and LDS, I don't know what they prefer to be called. Actually, same difference to me. But I'm sure that that's offensive to them, or maybe not all of them. But I thought that was so hilarious. But perhaps even poetic justice is it was delicious.
Yeah,
It
I
was a
know.
really good beer. I mean, really good beer, and local Utah beer. That was. And were you with me? I want to say it was you and me and Dennis Galbraith all staying in the same country inn,
Mhm.
and there was some election going on. It wasn't like presidential, but they had. Were you with me? And they
Yes.
put that piece of paper. It wasn't handwritten. They made it like on the computer that said, "We cannot sell alcohol until the polls close" or something like that.
I do remember that.
And I was like, where we're all from, it's like you have to consume more alcohol until the polls close. It was crazy, but boy, we had some very hilarious conversations.
There's
Oh
just good times, though. There was definitely a different time in the industry. People still trying to find their way. There wasn't this. There wasn't this construct of Facebook celebrity status. There are a media celebrity. That just didn't exist. And you know what it was. This is also a good thing to remember. Good point to ponder is, you know what didn't exist? Facebook live videos. The concept of live didn't exist. And
yeah,
it's like that was a flat line to celebrity status. because you could
Yeah.
only get celebrity type of perception or self-perception by doing other things. And then once that came on, that just changed everything. And then everyone's like, I'm going to hit this button for anything I'm doing, and it just because everything I'm doing is important. Everybody wants to see me do this.
Oh my goodness. It cracks me up too much. I am painfully self-aware of the Facebook Live thing, which I've done a couple of them recently. I think for good reason, but I don't want to waste people's time because I'm so conscious of when people are wasting mine, and I like to think that I'm a more others focused, very giving person. Um, that's really how I try to operate. But the Facebook Live stuff and it's like, it's almost, I put it in the same category as when somebody calls you now. Gary Vaynerchuk used to talk about this all the time. You get mad, like, you're calling me? Like, what? You think I'm available right now? But it's the same thing with email. It's the same thing with texting somebody. Any way of trying to get in touch with you is some form of interruption, right? And we have gone from we don't care about that at all, from like, you and I are old enough to be like, there was no answering machine. You got a phone at your house. Like, so it's like if somebody called during dinner, it's like, no one's answering that phone. It's just going to ring forever. Or you just pick it up and then put like,
Totally.
no one's getting the phone. And now it's like, you dare to call me when you don't have permission to. I read a book from Rob Bell this year called How to Be Here. It's really good. And he talks about that. When can we reach you? Anytime? And you'll just drop everything. And then what we called you about goes to the top of the list. Or, hey, my email's so important. Check your email. Why? I have stuff I'm doing right now, right? People wanting to get to the top of our attention span immediately, just like that. Boom. So Facebook Live, I did a bunch, and I still will, assuming that, there will be concerts again. I will absolutely go to some rock concert and put my phone up while Rat's playing Round and Round or whatever, because I feel like there might be 4 people that will be interested in seeing how some old 80s hair band sounds these days. But I had never done what I did with just in general going a couple of weeks ago. Hey, just want to talk to everybody. What's everybody thinking? It was kind of fun. A lot of nice participation. And then you saw the one where my son got engaged, and I made him go Facebook Live. So other than concerts, Facebook Live, I've done like 2 of them where I'm on, and I've tried to be really conscious of, it has to be a meaningful moment, whether people participate or not. To your point, I wish there was it was the Gong Show. So somebody goes Facebook Live, and I'm like,
what a great feature.
And if you get gonged, your Facebook live stream goes down.
Yeah, if they get enough gongs, it just shuts them off. That's a great feature. Yeah,
3 gongs.
My favorite annoyance, though, is, and I'm sure everybody's seen it and heard it. You're on the airplane, and the guy next to you you haven't even taken off, but he's got his laptop out, and he's banging away. He's clicking away. Sends the email. Then he gets on his phone, sends a text message. Then he calls, Bob, I just sent you a text message about the email that I just fired off. Did you get a chance to see it? The guy's probably like, I haven't even read your text message yet.
Right.
It's like, what? Yeah. It's like, and then of course the next thing he says is, I'm on the airplane right now. Because that guy was like, well, where are you? You're like, well, I'm on the airplane right now. It's like, I'll read it later. It's like, come on. And I laugh all the time. And it's like, even being involved with what level of involvement I'm at with even DealerTeamwork, I'm not firing off messages like that fast and furious. Every once in a while I might text somebody, but I don't think I've ever written an email and then texted and then Slacked or whatever, done something else and then called Shaun and be like, did you see that? No.
Yeah.
It's like,
I hate Slack, by the way. I hate it.
I do.
I should say I love Slack for what it does. I mean, the ability to connect teams, connect remote teams, even if you're in different parts of the building and all that, from a collaboration perspective and all that. I mean, it's awesome. But the fact that it is also the most hyperactive, on steroids way to interrupt people, like bling bling or whatever the chime is. Oh my goodness, it drives me insane crazy.
Well,
Crazy.
my workaround for that was I took it off my laptop and put it only on my phone
Mm,
and the key, and I used the status. But I you have to use it like you have to use it for specific type of messaging.
mm,
There is, as long as everybody's kind of on the same game plan for it. But we have the whole company on it, and we have a random channel, and you
mhm,
can imagine what flows through that, and it's great. It's a great, that's if I was in the office and there was a water cooler, that's where the water cooler chat would be, and it's fun. It's like if you need 30 seconds of distraction, I would
mhm.
rather it happen than that, and it's good. But so for the people that think they can use Slack as an email replacement, though, that's wrong.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, for sure. So I want to go back to, so we've known each other a long, long time, right? And you're definitely one of those people in the industry that I never feel like I get enough quality time with you. We get some time, but it's kind of like when Joe did his funny video of the de-evolution of the internet, of the conferences, like, hey man, what's ever, or I'll see
Yeah.
you with your little wolf pack, see you and Stapes and James doing your thing. And this year at NADA, we got a few more moments, like
All right.
that, but I always want more. I always want more. I feel like there are lots of people, and I don't know if you feel this way, but after you even speak once or twice at an event, you gain friends and acquaintances, people that feel very friendly with you, even if you don't know them really well. There's not a lot of depth in the
Sure.
relationship, but it also then pulls you away. There's people that want to know more about Eric Miltsch, and they want to. You ever find any way of balancing that in terms of the frustration? Because I still haven't figured out how to
No,
do that
no,
without not offending somebody. And
no, it's a never-ending struggle, and I always, I personally hate that element of it, because I'm always, to your point, I'm always hyper conscious and hyper aware of uh, my other friends that I unfortunately didn't get to see. Because I'm sure you get it too. You get messages, hey, where are you? I'd like to meet up, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're on your airplane going home. You're like, oh my
yeah,
god, I never ran into Jay. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, it's like I so wanted to, and everybody has that. I don't want to say revolving door, but just that cycle. It's an everlasting cycle like that, and you do feel bad because we've all had it. We've all developed nice relationships. And we always see each other in passing. Even I remember even a couple of years ago walking by your booth at Dealer On, and hustle and bustle. You want to stop in, and then
hmm,
you look over. I remember one time you look over, you're like, you waved, and you kind of like waved me off. You're like, but you gave me that glimmer of hope in your eyes, like, come back
yeah,
later, maybe we can talk. But that
yep.
always happens. But it's a crazy, crazy dynamic. But the good thing that I've always liked, and I know you can appreciate it too, is that that those what hasn't changed is the friendship and the relationship is still there, and if anything, it's matured over time, and we're all grateful for that. And it's Susan knows it. That's part of the reason why she loves, she knows that I love going to these events, because she knows, it's like, oh yeah, I got to go speak. It's like, oh, you got to go speak and then hang out with your friends from the industry for all weekend, that type of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
sure, that's what it is. you
Yeah.
know but
Well, there is definitely an important factor there of, relationship maintenance, and it does get more complicated than I think the average bear realizes. If you become a speaker, even if you speak once or twice a year, you don't have to be Gifford speaking at 3 million conferences, although he's sidelined on that right now. Like, he's got to be going out of his mind with the amount of travel he does. But, yeah. Interesting. So, and I want to flip back around a little bit on the dealer teamwork. So, I've known a lot each other a long time. For the audience that doesn't know you, you are. I don't know if you describe yourself this way, but I've always thought of you as pretty masterful in a lot of different ways. You have depth on search, definitely on organic and the paid side of search. You've always been somebody that's been very thoughtful from a end user perspective, which I've always really appreciated on website, both design functionality, what that should do, and you knew that, and you chased after things that were relative to you as an operator, right? So I always found that to be really informative because it brings a different perspective than just being selling or pushing services to somebody that actually hasn't been the end user of it, like you were as a dealer. Always appreciated that about you. And then, so you've gone through this. I've been on the retail side of it. You've had some vendor opportunities as well. And then I'll let you tell the story, but if you wouldn't mind, just so everybody in the audience can hear, what was kind of the catalyst for how Dealer Teamwork got to the position it was? I personally it was so much fun. I felt like it was almost like waiting for Christmas, because I was so certain of who you were going to name as your CEO, but I was, of course, like, I'm not saying anything, but walk the audience through kind of the inception, the early nucleus of Dealer Teamwork, the bringing in Stapleton, and then what's been going on with you guys since that. Did I summarize that enough for you to kind of tell the story?
Yeah, sure. I appreciate it. Yeah, so after Dan Mundell had brought that original idea, they had solved an interesting problem, in terms of creating real-time specials for their dealer group, and then he asked me to join in and try to help take it to that next level. And I was at an interesting crossroads as well, because I had just built up a really nice and successful search marketing company myself, in a consulting business, had quite a few clients, and I knew something was about to change in the industry at the time. I could see the handwriting on the wall, and something had to change. And I was again at an interesting point where I knew I never really wanted a big company. I wasn't ready for it personally. I didn't want that. I felt we could do something effective long term with just a few people. But then rather quickly, right under our noses, the functions and the features and the functionality that we had just started taking on their own organic life, and started just one thing after another. And because we were so small and so quick, we were nimble in terms of how we could build and get to the next step. Unfortunately, we were still too small and too ignorant, if you will, Shaun, just to realize what it actually took to scale something like that. And that's what I realized. This is something much bigger than I think we even can comprehend, or at least has the opportunity to be. I wasn't going to be that arrogant about it, but I just knew it had great potential. And I also knew that in order to get to that, it was going to take somebody that was a little bit extra special themselves. And that's when I reached out to Shaun, and him and I had always been good friends, and we wanted to do something together. We were throwing out goofy ideas, like, maybe him and I would start a dealership together, or, do something with the used car stores that I was getting involved with. Shaun had an interest in that, but things were changing in his world. Things were changing in ours. And the timing couldn't have been better, the lining of the stars. And, Shaun had to do what he had to do, and took a year off. And then finally, when he was able to join us. And the whole reasoning and logic behind it was, I knew we had to scale. And obviously, I had never had experience doing that. I had a few ideas, but I wasn't ready to make that next leap. And we didn't want to borrow money. We didn't want to, raise money or do anything like that. So it was like, what can we do, collectively together with the resources that we had? And then Shaun came in and, lent his expertise, off of everything that he had done. This was probably his fifth startup, that he had been involved with. Mm-hmm. So from a serial entrepreneurial perspective, he had the chops, plus the leadership, and it just, we didn't really realize what we had. But then once we started digging in, that's when I said to him, hey, what can we really learn from what you did? If you had the opportunity to rebuild VIN again, what would you fix? And one of the I remember this like it happened yesterday. One of the very first things he said was customer service. That has to be baked into the DNA, because very few large companies have the opportunity or the foresight to embed that within its culture like that. So, that's what I mean by putting it into the DNA at such an early stage. And, luckily we were dealing with some really, really close relationships with those accounts, those clients that I had, and, some of the newer ones that we put on. And, it was just about, what can we do to really make these people feel special, make a lasting contribution to the industry, and do something right, or at least as right as we could think it was. We weren't perfect, but I always took this type of outlook, Shaun. Was I wanted to, I never wanted to present something if I wasn't in the room that would make somebody back Shaun into a corner, which is hard to do anyways. It's Shaun, but still, because some of the stuff we were talking about still was, there was new stuff for me, there was new stuff for him, and we all together, all of us involved from early on, we wanted to protect each other from that light. So I told him, I don't, if I'm going to have you talk to somebody and I can't make the conversation, I don't want them to call you out on something because I either skimped or, forgot something. Let's check
Mm-hmm.
all the math twice, and make sure it's right, or at least as good as we can within the confines and limitations of our own platform. And, we came up, in my opinion, we came up with something really, really cool. And it's morphed so much from that. We're literally a different company almost every 18 months
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the growth, the talent, the leadership, the communication, the customer service levels. Again, I'm a little biased, but we were able to turn it into something, I believe truly special in terms of a really, really healthy company. For all the way from hopefully a likable, relatable brand, something that people can attach themselves to from an employee standpoint. It's a good story. Shaun and I have always talked, from day one. This, if we do this right, this could be a, a, a book from a business lesson standpoint. And there's been a lot of learning lessons that have come from it. It's not easy. Everybody always sees the front end of things, and it's not like working an 8 to 5 job. This is 24/7. It's a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Our families are all part of this. Our wives are, understand it. Our kids, everybody that's been along for the ride knows how deep this runs. And, we're at the point now we're like, we're going to die trying, we're going to make this
Mm-hmm.
thing work. And again, given what we're going through now, what a perfect test for the solution, the brand, the people, the leadership, again, the employees. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
coming together like they've never come together before. And it's something that we keep saying day in and day out, Shaun, that we're so thankful for the people that we have, and what they're doing. Holy cow. Again, I'm sure people are scared,
Mm-hmm.
people are nervous, but again, I said it in the beginning, anybody that says they have all the answers and knows what's happening, they're full of it. We don't, but the best we can do is at least assure our clients and our employees that, hey, we got a good, healthy company. We're going to do what we can. It's going to be rough, and we're going to do what we possibly can to make sure the employees are the priority and the dealers are taken care of as well. And, we work together on this. I can't do it alone. Shaun can't do it alone. Even, the next person on the leadership team, all the way down to the newest employee in the company. We don't
Mm-hmm.
expect anybody to do it on their own, and we just have to work together. And everybody's involved with the direction and the contribution. We've got every employee has a small piece of the company, so we try to do the right thing from that DNA. And like I said, the culture, the lifestyle everybody lives, the direction. That's all we can be. Is we've tried to be as transparent and vulnerable as we can. Yeah, I certainly don't want to try to be one of those leaders in the industry that, like I said before, have all the answers, and try to act like they know every last piece of what's going on behind the scenes in the industry. I certainly don't. I
Yep.
will pound my fist on the table and say, when it comes to the stuff that I do, I know that pretty well, and I'm confident in saying that. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, there's only a few other things. Shaun has always said from day one: stay in your lane and do the 2 or 3 things that you're really good at. Everything else, just they're basically hobbies, or
Yeah.
I love to play around with code. I love designing stuff, but I'll break it before it can be before it gets good. And but I can't spend my time doing that, because then I wouldn't be contributing to the things that I am good at. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a good mix. It's a good mix, and I love the stay in the lane analogy. From a work standpoint, because that was the first thing I was taught when I was started racing, on the track. When you go around the turn, stay in your lane. And then I never really realized that meant so much else, and it could be applied to, our work environment, and
Yeah.
Shaun had to belt me across the head a couple of times early on. It's like, yes, I know you like doing that, but you're just not good at that. So don't do that. Stay in your lane. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
fine, I get it. I'll stay in my lane. Because then it literally hit me. I was like, yeah, I went out of my lane and I crashed into another car and I caused a wreck. So that's pretty much what happened. So everybody learned to stay in their lane pretty quickly. But yeah, it's a fun story. I'm super proud of it, obviously, and I still remember that night in Vegas. Remember, I gave you and a few other people in the room a preview with Dan, and
Vidara.
we had no idea what we were talking about.
Yeah, no, I do remember that. It's, that's one of the things where I would say 2019 was probably, might have been 2018, but I think 2019 was the year that I decided that I don't care if I never become a millionaire. I never care. I don't want to be defined based on how wealthy I am. I don't want that to be my end goal. I mean, given what we're all is bearing down on all of us now, if you define your worth and your contentment based on how much money you have, good fucking luck. But I say that because I couldn't put a dollar value on how much it means to me to have had that shared moment where you guys were excited, you knew something was happening, you were innovating, and we're literally in, I don't know if you still feel this way, but I still love the Vidara. It's just so,
Oh, yeah.
I just always loved it. I thought it was awesome when I found out that you and Radke and all these other people loved Vidara too. But to have been in that room and known they've got something, this is gonna be something. And then every step beyond that, once you were free to bring on Shaun, once you were now fully rolling and okay, we're just making all, I mean, it was just, to me, I can't put a dollar amount on having friends that I see things like that happening. And I'm proud of you, man. I think it's awesome.
I appreciate it.
I'm always super happy for people that I respect and that I like, and that it's even better when they're actually personal friends of mine that are having these great successes. I just think it's the most exciting and fun thing. It's super cool. From an outsider, somewhat of an outsider's perspective, you mentioned customer service at DealerTeamwork. From my outsider, although friends with obviously the leadership team of DealerTeamwork, so I have that rapport with you guys. But I also can see from the outsider perspective that customer service clearly is a cornerstone for DealerTeamwork, and it matters. And you can't fake that. You can try to fake really caring about customers and how you deliver on it. But as soon as it's determined to be fraud or not real, it literally blows up in your face and could literally decimate a company. And so I think it's cool that you guys are focused on that. I think it's a really important thing. I think that it's cool that you have solved for something that can be far too complex. And I mean, how many years went by where dealers just really weren't doing anything to keep specials updated, right? I mean, it was a broken record. I mean, I got into this in the late 90s, and it was that way forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. You have no specials. I just clicked on your specials page. No specials, no current specials. Like, really, what? So there was that component, but then the way that you guys ended up tying that in, and the way that then you were writing content for that landing environment to be very helpful from both an organic and a paid search perspective, then giving people another paid search option. There's just all those components. And like you said, because we've had conversations outside of this podcast about other things, and you guys are chasing new things and innovating all the time, adding new services. I just think it's super exciting to see all of that happening. It's awesome. It's really cool.
I appreciate it, man. I'm fortunate to have somebody like you close to us as well. And, your opinion does matter. I think too many people get caught up in I don't give a shit what people think. But I'll be the first one to stand up and be like, no, you know what? I hear a lot what people think,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'll say it every day. It's like I absolutely do care.
Yeah.
That's why I try to conduct myself like I do, and because I certainly don't want the negative. You know, it's like I personally don't understand. I can't grasp it. Maybe I'm just not there on a personal level. But those YouTube stars, I don't know how they read their YouTube comments. I can't, because YouTube comments is just like the death of society. But
Oh,
I couldn't I
terrible.
couldn't do it based on that one. I'd have to turn off comments. That's the only
Yeah.
way I could do it. But it's
Well,
but no, I
it's funny.
appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you looking in from the outside, and we value your support. We've turned to you many times over the years for your opinion, and we always appreciate that. And it's hopefully this, just like everything else we said earlier, is going to give not only the industry but us a good opportunity to use part of this as a clean slate for a few things. And
Mhm.
again, not that we want to, not to take advantage of it in a bad light, but take advantage of this opportunity for new problems to emerge,
Mhm.
identify those problems, and try to solve for X as well, because that's how we do things. Too many people, unfortunately, are still caught up in that startup game because they're still focused in on that other point that you said. They want to do it just because they want to be a millionaire, and
Mhm.
if you're doing something, if you're doing something for that type of reason, you're going all about it the wrong way. If you are
Mhm.
solving for something first, then the good times will follow. But there's going to be a whole new wave of opportunity ahead, and hopefully we can identify that and improve our company and experience even more.
Yeah.
John, ready for it.
I'm sure you guys will. I mean, you got a lot of really smart, talented people, and you know, what's going on right now is definitely going to give people and businesses an opportunity to reset. Some of those will be partial resets. Some of them will be wholesale, literally reset the whole thing, and some of it will be somewhere in between. But certainly looking at that as, well, listen, I'm hopeful because there still will be problems to solve. There will be people to help. There will be our own employees to help, right? To help them have more learning opportunities, to take on big responsibility, to be part of something that's big. Obviously, focusing on the needs of dealers. It's going to be really interesting to figure out how to advise and coach dealers with marketing messaging and how they define their customer experience, and then what customer experience they're going to deliver post this pandemic. It
Yeah,
will be it will be different fundamentally because we've already had this shutdown of sorts, that it will have to be different. So that's an opportunity, right? That's an opportunity. You're going to get the opportunity to redefine something on actually a pretty grand scale. So if you think about it as, oh, this is the end of the world, which it's not, but it is the end of some things
for
in the
sure.
world. It is the end of some ways we have done things in the world. And I don't know that that's should be met with a belief that that's all bad. And that's kind of what you're saying, is there's opportunity in it. We'll be ready for it. I mean, I've told people for years when they ask me about Shaun, when they ask me about Stapes, like, you like that guy? I'm like, I love that guy. And I'm like, oh man. And you know what? Every single person that's not been his fan, they don't know him. They don't know him. They just don't know him. And so I know that you guys have the people, including Shaun, that you'll take whatever this delivers to you, and you'll be like, okay, now here we go. And that's forward, and that's next, right? Okay, next. Okay, next. Okay, let's go. I just know that about you guys, so I'm
And that's
not.
the thing, John. We have these people that work with us on our leadership team. Our CFO, and he's also our COO, Joe Scar. God, this guy's he's just so insanely talented. He came from a hedge fund. Paying, he's our lifeline to the economic perspective. Then we've got our CIO. This guy he was a senior guy at Oracle. Jim Rogers is just incredible. He was managing thousands of developers there, and it's like and Shaun and I have to laugh at times. We're like, how did we get these people? And they're people that the industry doesn't know, which at the same time, I have to point out, it is possible to do incredible things in the automotive industry without
Mhm.
being Facebook famous. So, yeah, to that point, these are people that are just doing their job, head down, doing their thing, and it's incredible. But to your point, yes, I hope, I believe you're absolutely right. Lots of good change and positive things coming, and opportunity for us to do even better. So I'm
Mhm.
cool with it. But to your earlier point, helping employees, I have to go help an employee right now with something. So
Okay. Well, it's perfect time for us to wrap it up. This has been fantastic. Really happy that you were able to do this episode. Now we know what's going on with Eric Miltsch.
thanks, Shaun.
Da 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 da